Good Tuesday morning, Moms and Master Books. Hey, today we're going to do a question and answer about questions posted on a previous post. I do want to let you know that Language Lessons for a Living Education Book 5, Level 5, has arrived in the warehouse, and More Than Words arrived in the warehouse just a few minutes ago. These actually showed up. So just to let everybody know that they're in stock and the team is going to be working on shipping. I want to give everybody the caution, though, that there are a lot of back orders for these two books, and we're bringing in extra people to help ship them out. So be looking for your email that with tracking information and whatnot, but please don't call and say, where's my order and stuff yet. Because it's going to take us a couple days to get caught up on all the back orders and all the books that we have in stock. Speaking of that, I would encourage anybody that's looking to place orders for the summer, the sooner the better, as the volume is going like this, and so that you can get your order in time, the sooner you place your order, the better. So again, Language Lessons 5 and More Than Words are in stock and will be shipping. And so you should be getting some information on that. I think I'm even going to the warehouse later this afternoon to help start boxing, just so we can get them out quickly. But don't panic if you don't get a tracking number today or tomorrow. Just know that we're working as hard as we can to get these orders out as quickly as possible. Okay, so we're going to talk about questions that you have. And there was a lot of questions, so I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to be really candid, if that's okay. First question: how do I convince my 7th grader, who is off the chart smart, to try something different? We have Apologia General Science book, which he is supposed to do with a co-op, and General Science from Master Books, and he's nervous about switching from what he's used to. I really want him to start science and history in Master Books, but he chose the BJU for history because he's used to that also. My daughter will be in 4th grade using the science and history from Master Books next year. It's our first year with Master Books, and I'm loving everything I've ordered so far. Brooke, what I would say in this case is, if it isn't broke, I wouldn't fix it. If your son has a curriculum that he likes and he's not fighting you on, and it's challenging him, and BJU has a good Christian worldview built into it, I wouldn't break it. I wouldn't force him to move into something, so that, because what's going to happen is, going into Master Books from a curriculum that he isn't happy with, if he already has an apprehension or he already has kind of a distaste for the change, he's not going to embrace Master Books. So what I would say, if he's coming from Apologia Science, say the Jeannie Fulbright series up through 6th grade into General Science, it's going to be an intense change. That series changes significantly in 7th grade to be much more intense. And if you encounter that, then that's a good time to say, well, would you like to try the Master Books? And we can just test it, right? One semester of one book, 9 weeks. Let's test it and see if that works better for you. So I wouldn't force a student to make a change if they're motivated, learning and working, and there's not, just be ready if something changes. So that would probably be my suggestion. A lot of these I haven't even had time to really look at this morning. So as I'm going through, it's like you're coming up to me and getting a cold answer. Don't know if that's the smartest thing for me, but let's keep going. Nicole says, I'm interested in a zoology course for my 5th grader, but I also have 2nd and 3rd grader. Do you think they'll be able to grasp it? How long should we expect it to take each day? Time-wise, I'd say 30 to 45 minutes. Somebody can comment if you had a different experience. It really depends on how fluid and how task-oriented your family is. If you can relax and kind of talk about things, discuss it, and enjoy it, it may take a little longer. I think you can work through the worksheets quicker if you're just like, let's just get through the sheets. I would say for your 5th grader, let your 5th grader do the course, but have your 5th grader do read aloud, and so they read the content so that your 2nd and 3rd grader are able to listen to it. They can certainly participate in the activities. They could, you could have the worksheets and let them do the worksheets, but I wouldn't expect your 2nd grader to do the work alone. I would be more inclined to say, let them be an observer at this point, and And second and third grade, really what they're gaining, of course, a lot of different philosophies in this, but I think you're fine just letting them listen to the course being read, discussing it. If there's an interest in something, letting them do a little bit more, go to the zoo, go to the aquarium, do those types of things as a family, and give them exposure to the course. The goal is learning. The goal is not completing worksheets. If worksheets help you learn, then that's why they're there. But learning is the most important. So if your fifth grader is doing a read aloud, or you're reading aloud, and they're all getting something and learning and growing and discussing, game on. Catherine says, is my story too young for a fifth to sixth grader who's reading a level behind? No. We've had a lot of reports to fourth, fifth, and sixth graders who actually have gotten a lot from my story, especially my story 2. So I would recommend doing that. That he will comprehend it, he will get information from it, and if he's, especially if he's reading a little bit behind, it's not going to be too difficult. It's a good social studies curriculum. So I would say I would be comfortable recommending that to a fifth or sixth grader. It wasn't designed for that, but just hearing what parents have said that their students have done well with that has been good. Let's see, just going to scoot down. Okay. Kara, wondering about language lessons for a living education 6 and 1, looking forward to the overview author interview vids for those, along with news that Kristen is done with treatments and God is completely restored to health. Praying that day comes soon. Language lessons for living education 6, Kristen is working on that, and but it's not, she's working hard on that, but I think it will take a little bit longer than originally anticipated because of treatments and the challenges of going through chemotherapy and those things. Language lessons for a living education, and right now we have a solution for that because it's the elementary Bible and English grammar course. And a lot of that content is being brought into language lessons for a living education 6. That was one of our best-selling courses. A lot of families really liked it. The urgency for that is that the book that's part of that series, that white Bible stories book that's in there, is no longer going to be available. And so we're trying to get that course rewritten so that we can, I think she's bringing in the 10-minute Bible journey as a supplement for that course, but because we're publishing it and all of that. So that has a solution. Same for the basic language skills for grade 1. A lot of that content will become the foundation for the content in Language Lessons for a Living Education, Book 1. But I would say that probably isn't going to be available until spring of 2020. And it's just taking a little bit more time to get those courses done. But she is working on it. And as far as treatments go in that, I think that she's doing as well as can be expected. And we appreciate prayers, and this group has been awesome supporting us and loving on her, and we certainly appreciate that. She's a tough cookie. Kara also wanted to know about the e-content for Principles of Mathematics. Could the lessons be on a DVD? That content isn't under the control of Master Books, and so that one would be one that you would have to work with directly with Catherine on. Okay, Rachel Cook Booth says, how to supplement an elementary course for older students. Example, I have a junior high student interested in animals, but zoology might be too young for her. But the task of researching other resources and assignments to supplement seems daunting to me since I'm homeschooling 6 kids, grades 1 through 7. Here's what I would say, Rachel, in your particular case. If you have a junior high student who's interested in animals, let her teach the zoology course to her siblings. Let her be the teacher. She will learn more from that, and that gives her the framework, and she's going to learn the book. She's going to learn that. She could even do extra hands-on stuff. But we learn so much more from teaching, and she may gain a lot from just teaching that course and then supplementing and doing that way. So that's what I would recommend for your situation. We've done that in the past where our older students will actually teach the course to the younger student, and in becoming the teacher, they become the expert. And I think it's a great applied way of learning. Also transitioning from language lessons to writing strands, we're starting with level 5 this fall for grades 6 and 7. I would like to get them back to grade level in the next year or two. What level of writing strands can they go to from language lessons for living education 5? Would it prepare them to jump to writing strands intermediate 2 the following year? Well, the way we're writing it is language lessons 6 is being designed to transition into intermediate 1. So if they complete language lessons for living education through grade 6, they will transition into intermediate 2. If you're coming out of language lessons for living education 5, I would probably recommend beginning 2. Back to grade level is something that, let me explain it this way. If I have a car and the transmission doesn't work, but I really want good stereo, right? And I want to have tinted windows, and I want to have a cool exhaust system, but I don't have a good transmission, it really isn't going to be effective if I want to take a trip. And I think education is the same way. We've stereotyped children to where they need to be, what skills they need to have, what is a grade level, those things. And I understand the desire to have them back at grade level. But the most important thing with the Master Books method that we believe is that the student is learning and that you have the foundations in place. So you want to make sure that the engine is solid, the transmission is solid, before you worry too much about the speakers, the tinted windows, and the cool muffler. And I think in cases like this is why we say, if you can step away from the grade level a little bit and say, what is the placement level, so that we just continue learning. Because you know what, we're not done learning at grade 12. We're going to continue being lifelong learners. And we're just going to continue to develop our skills. We're going to become better communicators all the time. At 50 years old, I have to learn how to communicate. I still am lousy at communication skills. I still am lousy at staying emotionally controlled and speaking intelligently when I need to. So this isn't something we do at, I'm 6th grade, 7th grader, 8th grader, 12th grader, and now I'm done. This is, we're preparing them to continue to develop their skills, to continue that. And I would say that learning process never ends. But we want to make sure the foundations are solid. So that would be my encouragement, and hopefully I answered the question as well. Okay, Dolores, yes, I'm still trying to decide if this is for my busy, adventurous, easy, loose, focused boy, almost 7. We start first. He gets bored with work for a while. So we want hands-on. What should I buy exactly? My recommendation is our basic 4 for any grade level. That would be if you came to me in a booth and said, what is the basic that I need to buy from Master Books? I would say the basic 4 sets, the math, the language, the history, social studies, and the science. That's what I would recommend you buy. When it comes to the language skills or the math, I recommend the placement test. You don't want to have learning gaps, and you can let a student accelerate faster through a level if there's review, but our books aren't intense courses. I'll talk about this in another time, but I'm reviewing BJU and Abeka 1 with Math Lessons 1 because we get the questions so much. And yeah, I'm overwhelmed by the worksheets, and I can see why people would think that there's so much more, but at the same time, it's like it's almost overwhelming. So I think with our sheets, if once a student grasps the concepts, let them move at their level, right? Who cares if they're doing algebra in 4th grade, as long as they understand it and they're enjoying it. And who cares if they're still struggling in 9th grade to figure it out? As long as you keep them moving forward moving and growth, right? We need growth. That's the one thing that gets lost sometimes. So I would say look at your basic 4, see what's there, but take the placement test to make sure that the basic 4 levels for math and language are appropriate. Allison, I'm looking for more information about adventures in creation. I wasn't too impressed with the pages that were released, and I'm worried my second grader, who is very concerned about being a big kid, will think it's a baby science. I don't want to look outside of Master Books for science, but I don't want my second grader to get bored. We don't have a lot of solutions, Allison, for second grade and first grade. The previews that were released, that was really written for a first grader. So you're talking about a student who's, you know, a wide range of students who are still learning to read, still learning kind of the whole how to do this school thing right. So yeah, I mean, if you have a second grader moving in, you know, there's a couple of options that you can do. You could definitely just pick a topic and really kind of research that topic or go a little further into it. You could do something, you know, like science starters where there's some more hands-on stuff and adapt it down. You could do kind of the God's design for life or the universe, or you could just do like unit studies. I don't have anything to tell you. If you've already done God's design for life and you feel that the level 1 would be too far below him for where he is, I would then move him up and adapt it if it seems too much of a struggle, or you know, there's plenty of books that Master Books has to be able to put together kind of your own study. And at those levels, first, second, third grade, it's really just curiosity. It's developing curiosity. With science and social studies, those aren't necessarily foundational topics. Math, I can't do algebra if I can't do the basics. So math is foundational. I think language to some extent is very foundational. You have to understand kind of the how to cross your T's and dot your I's in order to move forward and be a better writer. I can pretty much jump into history anywhere. I'm not an expert on World War I, but if I wanted to, it'd be pretty easy for me to start studying World War I, and I don't really need to know a lot about the ancients to understand what's going on for World War I, if that makes sense. Science is the same. I think I can jump in pretty quickly into science and begin learning. You know, there's basic foundations, and I need certain concepts like math for chemistry and those at the higher levels. But in the elementary levels, it's developing a curiosity and an awareness. And, you know, that's where journaling comes in. That's where the Charlotte Mason method is so effective in the elementary level, because you're really just giving them this, oh my goodness, look at God's creation, how wonderful it is. Okay. Still just making sure I'm good. Okay. Vicky says, my daughter will be taking the biology course. When will the lab book and lab kit be available? So the lab book is being worked on. We're close to getting that wrapped up. Just a lot of work, these slides and getting the photography right and all of that. The lab kit should be available for ordering hopefully later this week. There's some logistics that we're having to work on internally from when an order is placed, making sure that the order gets processed and sent to the third party. So hopefully by the end of this week, you'll be able to order the kits with it. If not, should be able to order it next week for sure, and it will be shipping mid-July. And the price of the kits, yeah, we work to bring the price down as much as possible. These are serious science, you know. One of the things we heard was we want science with labs, and we went to a professor of these courses and said, we want legitimate science that matches our worldview, and that required real world lab equipment. So the cost is there. What I would say is we provide all of the equipment that's needed in the course. We put it together in a kit to make it easy for people. But, excuse me, if you wanted to, you could certainly purchase those items as needed. In fact, I think in the book, like even the chemistry book or the biology book, it tells you for each lab what you need. So you could order those, you know, a couple months in advance. You could search different places. I'm sure you could find individual pricing and pieces from different companies. You might be even able to save some money that way. Or if there's another family that's willing to go in with you. I know some families are doing that or doing the co-op type of thing. So it's a hard balance, right? We want our curriculum to be affordable, and we want our textbooks, we keep the textbook low. But when it came to actually getting all the parts and pieces, it really, it wasn't cheap. So, okay. And Karen asks, is there a way to connect high school students using the Masterclass Sciences with others regionally? That would be through local co-ops and local groups. She does say, I've seen prices for other science lab kits, so I see the cost supplies is typically less than other lab kits. I'm not considering other curriculums. I'm just saying I can see the cost of lab kits through Master Books are standard, if not less expensive. They really are, and moving to this other provider really does help us with this, because they shopped the prices. They got good prices, and they are also, the owner of that company is the head of creation sciences at Liberty University. And so we know that they share our worldview and that are excited about promoting the message of creation. And so it's a very equally yoked partnership with them to provide kits and sets and that type of thing. Okay. What will math lessons for a living education K cover? My 5-year-old is doing level 1 and he's grasping everything except place value. Should I just keep moving forward since he seems to be doing well, or should I get to K level and go with level 1 again for next year? Our kindergarten approach, we talked about this with Simply K. It's more of a developmental approach. It's preparing them for success in higher grades, continually building to prepare them for success. So in that being said, a lot of what they're doing is they're going to do number recognition. They're going to practice their motor skills. They're going to do like shape recognition, basic addition, not intense addition, where they're going to need place value and that type of thing. It's more designed to acquaint the student and to give them stamina and prepare them for learning. So in your case, Amanda, I would probably say it's a hard one. If he's developed the skills, you may just slow it down a little bit. Place value is a hard thing to comprehend, and sometimes students, it just clicks. Other times they struggle with it. I wouldn't push past that struggle. I would probably make sure the motor skills are there. You could practice that place value just a little bit at a time. Try it with some different techniques, right? And just see if maybe something clicks for them there. But there's a lot, like we talked about, going on intellectually and emotionally at that place where they're developing. From our standpoint, it's better not to push a student. If they can grasp it quickly and they're moving, that's fantastic. But a lot of people get discouraged because they're trying to push their kindergartners and first graders to be at levels of students who are advanced. And oftentimes then it sets the student up for failure, or it sets the parent up for failure. So if he's 5 years old doing level 1 and he's just kind of hit a roadblock, I would ease off a little bit, do some more practice, and adapt it. As far as sneak peeks and sneak peeks and previews, as soon as I have a file I can sneak into the server and grab, I will be happy to show everybody. We will be interviewing the authors. Angela Odell partnered with Carrie Bailey on this to put together really a good developmental integrated approach to the Simply K. How does the writing and language lessons for a living education compare to IEW? I have a struggling writer and feel like he is going to need an incremental program. I've asked a couple times in the group, haven't gotten much response. Yeah, so there's a YouTube clip that I've put up with the author Dave Marks talking about writing strands and what his heart is behind it. I'm going to say language lessons for a living education really helps a student. This wasn't about writing strands, so let me rewind. Language lessons for a living education really helps just develop some critical thinking skills, develop some communication skills. So I look at a picture and I think about what's being communicated and how do I put that into words. I don't have a lot of experience with IEW. I know some people do. I have heard it said from different people who write. They could tell an IEW writer from a mile away because they all follow the same exact formats and formula, and it bothered them. It doesn't mean that the program wasn't effective, but I get it. They teach this method that's very easy to follow. Language Lessons for a Living Education is teaching the basic skills. It's teaching a much more comprehensive language, more integrated. You know, there's basic spelling in it, there's the grammar, there's all of this built into it, but it's also teaching the student how to write sentence, how to communicate well and communicate effectively. I think Language Lessons for a Living Education is a much more holistic approach to teaching communication. That would be my answer. If you are familiar with IEW, you're welcome to weigh in as far as what your experience has been between the two, and just be sure not to put any outside links or make outside recommendations. What are the major differences between Language Lessons for a Living Education 4 and 5? Does 5 continue spelling? Yes, 5 continues the spelling. As far as level 5, I hope to have Kristen on soon to talk about it, and we'll go more in depth on the series and all of that as well. So it just continues to build on the level previously, but she will be able to give a much better answer than I'm going to. All right. Sorry, Sherry, I wish I had a better answer for you. Is there any movement on audio resources for World Story or America's Story? Thanks. I'm going to say no. It is something we would love to have happen, but it would require still a tremendous amount of resources and effort. And right now we have projects that are more core to what we need to get out that are consuming all of the resources. So it is something we want to do, but it's not on the immediate radar at this point. Let's see. How can I learn to let go and trust I'm doing? Aniston says, how can I learn to let go and trust I'm doing enough? I always think I have to add more. There needs to be more. If it's one page, it can't be enough. We got to know this is all right now. I can't help but fear that at the end of our homeschool journey, there's going to be something I will have left out. Nicole answered that, but can I just say, Aniston, there will be things that get left out. You can't possibly teach everything there is to know to your student. The world is changing. Years ago, when I left school, I needed to know almost everything I could up here, because people would say, well, you can't always carry, you're not always going to have your encyclopedias in the back pocket. Now I do. You're not always going to have, a complex calculator, a graphing calculator in your back pocket. Now I do. I have access to knowledge. Now, whether I want to use that knowledge and learn about knowledge, whether I want to apply that knowledge or have an understanding in how to discern truth, that's the challenge our kids have. You're not going to teach them everything that's available to us in the phone. We can present textbooks and all of that. What we want to do is lay solid foundations, and we want to lay a solid biblical foundation alongside that, so that the student, as they build knowledge that they gain here, when they see a discussion happening, that they have some solid foundations that they can participate in. But there's just no way that you're ever going to teach all of the knowledge that's available. So students will graduate without knowing everything. Now, when I graduated enough credits. I went on to college. I struggled some through college. Then I did well in college. After a few years and I had some more life experience, things started to click. I was a late bloomer, 20-year late bloomer, but it happened. And I've continued to build knowledge and continue to build on that. So I think that's where, when we talked about in teaching tips, is developing the goal. What is the goal that you have for your homeschool? What is the goal that you have for your kids? And how do you begin accomplishing that goal? Because just here are the standards. Let's hope they know everything. Let's pass a test. Let's do the CATs. Maybe they can get into college and pass some more tests. Doesn't equate to success. And it has to be balanced with keeping the main thing the thing, and helping them learn, discern truth, helping them communicate that, develop relationships. These are the things our kids need to be successful with. So the way Master Books typically does things, I'm going to talk more about in Thursday's message for teaching tips. I want to talk a little bit about the applied learning approach versus kind of a knowledge-based approach to learning. And hopefully that'll help as well. All right, my phone has timed out. Apparently I'm going really slow. Okay, will there be a curriculum for learning to write in cursive? Yes, there is plans for a penmanship course, but that is a bit down the road. So it's not on the immediate radar. So our team is putting out so many courses a year right now, and in order to be able to put them out, and we're not only are we putting out courses, but we've learned a lot, and so we're putting out much more sophisticated courses based on the feedback and information. When we see something is working, resonating well with the market, we want to continue to develop that. So we've even gone back and we're redeveloping courses that, you know, they worked in the past, but we've learned now, hey, if we tweak it just a little bit, we're going to be able to make it that much more successful and help families that much more. So yes, curriculum also to learn different languages. I'm sure at some point, yes, different languages will be out there. And at some point we might be able to purchase another publisher as well, like we've done in the past, that have curriculums that just need a facelift and a little bit of new energy applied to it. That's probably how we'll start to develop some of those courses as well. So, but there's nothing on the immediate for that. What reader books do you recommend to go along with Writing Stands Intermediate? And this is one we recommend. Master Books books. We're very careful not to recommend books by other publishers that we haven't reviewed and we don't want to stand accountable for. So we've, as we've redone courses and stuff like that, we've made some changes to some of these because we know that the worldviews of the authors or the worldview of the publishers stood in contrast to a biblical Christian worldview. So we leave that to your discretion. I know that can be frustrating because sometimes I want a list. I want to just tell me what I need and I'll go to it. But could I encourage you, reading is it lays a worldview, right? I'm putting myself under the counsel of the author. And it's so important that you understand that the materials that you give to read can have an impact. When my oldest was young, she read a book. She picked it up at a convention, and we thought, no problem. And she read it, and it was about modesty and a woman's role and different things like that. And it just planted some nasty seeds that we really didn't agree about, and wished that she hadn't had to struggle with because of that. So we take very seriously that it would be better for a man to tie a millstone around his neck and cast it into the sea than to cause a little one to stumble. And I think it's important that the books that you choose fit your worldview. They fit the publishers who put them out, are committed to kingdom work and growing faith, and that you're comfortable with the message that's being conveyed, right? There's always an underlying worldview. It could be rebellion against parents. Every generation who writes is going to actually have a little bit different spin, even a worldview. That's what, Writing Strands is so good about teaching, is the way we use our words can actually have huge amount of influence. And there are social scientists who are studying how to manipulate culture just by choosing the right words and the right word images and how effectively that's done. So, some students will do really well with fiction. Other students would rather pluck their eyes out than read fiction and would do better with a biography. So I would say, what is the interest that your student has? I remember my first real reading interest was a book on a baseball player. And that was the first time I really read a book, his biography, and really enjoyed it. And I don't know if anyone would remember, but it was a book, A Walk Across America by I can't remember his name, but him and his dog took a walk and a journey, and I just ate that book up. And I was not a reader, but I certainly did enjoy reading that material. So rather than forcing your student to read books that they're not interested in, let them choose books and topics that are of interest to them, and allow them to develop that, but ask good questions. Like, what did you like about the writer's style? What words or what flavors? What do you think his worldview is? Those types of things. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, and we don't allow outside titles or recommendations. It's not so much because we care about competition or because of the retail side of it. It comes down to more the accountability issue. And I don't want to make recommendations for your family that I'm not willing to stand behind. With Master Books products, we have an entire team that is committed to that. So, okay. Let's see. Tabitha says, my husband doesn't believe in God. How do I speak to him about using Master Books for our full curriculum and not just math? I would say what's important to him. If it's important that his kids know how to apply knowledge, go from the applied knowledge angle. And that a lot of what Master Books does in creating a love for learning, having an open and go, making it so that the family can enjoy outside learning activities and applied learning. I certainly would not deceive him, but I would say allow Master Books to be a Trojan horse, right? There's a lot of qualities about Master Books besides the faith-building component that make it great for homeschool families. And so while he may not be all on board for training his children in the way of godliness, he might be all for the applied learning method or the joy in learning, lifelong learning, hands-on approach. And I would go with it from those angles. Living art lessons, is there a sneak peek? Not at this point. That project is, once we start working on that, we will, but there just isn't one right at the moment. Wondering what to get. God's Design for Life, Adventures in Creation for a 5-year-old. Again, depending on the 5-year-old, there is some basic science-y type stuff in Simply K, but if they're ready for that, you could do God's Design for Life. Either one, I would say Adventures in Creation, but again, there's writing and words and that. So if they're not reading and writing effectively, a 5-year-old may get frustrated with it. Okay, looking for what direction to go. Marcy is looking brand new to all of this. I would look at our basic 4. You can always add subjects and build on it, but the basic 4 is what I would go, as I talked about earlier. Let's see. Not sure where to transition into language lessons for living education. Kara, there is a placement test. I would advise looking at the placement test. If you go to the landing page for language lessons for living education, look at the placement test. If you have any questions, I know some people have even posted a sample of their students writing into this group, and other moms have been able to give some recommendations based on that. Let's see. Tanya is, I'm not sure how to pose this as a question. I'm still working on liking writing strands. I have the teaching companion, but for the individuals, I get hung up a little bit. Tanya, my question would be, have you read or have you listened to Dave Marks talk about the writing, the YouTube video that was posted? If not, I can do that again. The second thing would be, it's hard when you're used to a very formulaic approach, a very do this, here's what you do, versus a communication approach. Communication is difficult because one size doesn't fit all. And I have to be responsive to the listener, to the audience. I have to use my own style. I have to command authority or whatnot. So it is a little bit harder to judge that and to evaluate that. And I think you've got to look at writing strands more from the spirit of the course than following the letter of the law of the course. What does the author want? He wants them to be able to communicate effectively. He wants them to use words appropriately and communicate in a way that helps the listeners understand what's being spoken. Adrienne came in and said, I agree. I don't feel like Writing Strands is a full language arts curriculum. Well, we moved the recommendations up on Writing Strands so that the foundations, nouns, verbs, adjectives, students would have a lot of that flavor. Writing Strands is a more teach grammar as you go. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about the applied method with a real life situation on Thursday in the teaching tips. But I love the way Dave Marks teaches Writing Strands. It's not for everyone. One size doesn't fit all. Language Lessons for a Living Education certainly can fill in the gaps for elementary students if you're struggling with it. And then if, once you get to the high school levels, the Jensens, there are families that absolutely love Jensens. And Jensens has an approach that's very formulaic. It's format writing. It's ding, 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 ding. And it's more based on the formula than the communication. So I'm in marketing. I think words matter, communication matters. So that's why I love Writing Strands. Other people do better with a formula. I understand the struggle that a person can kind of be in with what is he asking from me, because he's asking you kind of go outside the box and be innovative and creative, as opposed to let's just follow the format. Will there be a Master Books College? Man, I would love a Master Books College, and who knows what the Lord will do someday. We do have plans for a Master Books. Here's what I would love. This is a brainstorm. It's out there. We're kind of looking into the details of it. A Master Books School of Communication or Master Books School of Writing. We're a publisher with 40 years of experience. We have authors and publicists and marketing departments. We have editorial teams. We have design teams. I would love to become the homeschool's most recognized writing academy, that you're able to enroll and learn how to write for communication, but not just writing essays, but you're learning how to author books, and you're learning how to participate in communicating for the real world, right? I don't know the last time I wrote a 5-paragraph essay, but I have had to do a lot of communicative writing. And to be able to say, hey, we have best-selling authors who could talk about what it's like to write a book and still have the ability to grade and those type of things, that would be something we're looking at. And feel free to tell me your feedback. If you think that's something your family would be interested in, I'd love to know that, because we're kind of evaluating the whole thing right now, but we'd rather do it as an online school rather than a textbook. And just because that's our expertise, we know what it's like to have, get a book published. And we know what good authors do and what bad authors do and how much work it takes. And so I want your kids to be able to communicate to their culture effectively. And in order to do that, I have to give them, I have to let them begin applying those skills. Okay. That was a rant. Sorry. I love to compare and contrast explanation for America's Story 1 through 3 in 1 year high school credit to Stoba American History. Okay. America's Story 1 through 3 was really written for elementary students. I know some people do adapt it for high school students. They do all 3 in one level. They go a little bit deeper. It would be, by the three books, have your student do some writing assignments, have your student do some additional reading and those type of things. You could thicken that up for the course, but it wasn't designed for high school learning. World Story by Stoba, the American history has been redone, and I think it's designed for higher level thinking. It's not designed to tell the student this is what you should think. It's designed to say, this is what happened. What do we think about this? And beginning to help them prepare for kind of a higher level of thinking, more what they're going to experience at the college level, or just, adult conversation. Not that America's Story won't do that, but I really feel that course is best suited for elementary students. And the Stoba, especially in the redone version, is a great overview of American history. Could you give us a hint as to what's coming down the pipeline for new curriculum? We have an astronomy course that's coming out by Danny Faulkner. Danny Faulkner is an astronomist on staff at the Answers in Genesis. I think that'll be a great course. We have, of course, we're developing, language level 6 and some of those courses. We have the Algebra 2 course that's coming out by Kate that I did an article recently. We're filling in a lot of gaps, but we also are looking for some of the best solutions to fill the needs that you have as homeschool parents. So those are a couple. When will a preview for language lessons for living education be available? Won't be till spring of 2020, Carolina. And I would say basic language skills, that's the foundation of the course that you're going to see. So definitely I would be comfortable recommending that you do basic language skills. Parents have used it, and yeah, I think it will be enhanced with language lessons for living education, because once Kristen touches it, she's going to make it remarkable. But I know that just based on the schedules and all of that, it's going to be probably spring. So Darlene, I see a question about, do I think classics are important? I'm in the educational mindset that it's okay to have an awareness of the classics, but I don't think that the classics are, who defines classics, right? So it's important that I read Mark Twain and I read, the Scarlet Letter and all of these, and I learn about authors who had a secular, humanistic, atheistic worldview. But yet, Pilgrim's Progress wouldn't be necessarily a classic, even though more copies of that have sold than any other book. So yeah, I think that, we have the literature books, the literature of the church, I can't think of my mind is completely drew a blank. The great Christian classics. That's a book that we sell that, in fact, it's right in front of me. Carrie Bailey just actually put it up. That's the book that I would recommend for a Christian family, is study the Christian classics. But worldview matters. It really does. The seeds we plant today can lie dormant for years and then come out. I see it in my own life. I hate it. And, once those seeds are there, getting rid of it can be a real challenge. So I think the school that I went to, they didn't focus on that. I clicked the wrong button. Okay, so let me just see if I can get back to my, okay, I'm back in my questions answer. Oh my goodness, you guys keep adding questions. Let's see. Hey, I found it. Scope and sequence for math lessons for living education kindergarten. Again, it'll be shapes, number skills, motor skill development. It's not so much skill development there as much as it is, it's not so much knowledge development as it is skill development to prepare them to move into one. What does the kindergarten living education scope and sequence look inside? I think I shared that in the pictures, Marie. I think that there's a picture in the group with the scope and sequence for Simply K. That preview should be going up soon. Is there going to be a cursive handwriting book? I answered that. Down the road, there will be a penmanship course that's coming. What is the best way to order books from outside the U.S.? I'm in England and keen to get started. We work with resellers. Amazon is one international markets that sells. There's different bookstores that sell. If you have a bookseller or a bookstore in your country that sells product, I would ask them to bring Master Books in. They can buy from Ingram. There's a lot of different ways that they can buy, and we do sell. We've opened markets in South Africa. There's a great homeschool community in South Africa, and a mom who wanted product and was having trouble getting it, actually, Stephanie went and started bringing it in. She found ways to order it, have it shipped into South Africa, and she's marketing it. She's going to conventions and working with families, and we're all for that. So if you're in a foreign country, yeah. Okay. Why is there a huge difference between God's Design for Beginners and God's Design? It's just the way it was developed. So the program was originally written for grades 3 through 8. It's a multi-age type curriculum, and we wanted something that worked incrementally towards K through second, and then moves into the upper level. So I think the series you'll see with Let's Talk, the Let's Talk Science series that's coming, I think you'll see that more incremental in its approach, because it's being designed kind of as a leveled approach, but we'll only have the one level of that right now. Okay, suggestions for high school level writing and grammar for college-bound students. Well, and I see Carity, thank you Carity, posted Dave Mark's YouTube videos here. I would recommend Writing Strands because I think communication skills are so important. And I think if your grammar is weak and you have a high school student, that's going to teach the basic grammar skills in college, I don't remember having any of my professors talk about my nouns, my verbs, my adjectives, my prepositions, my direct objects, any of that. Mostly they talked about my inability to communicate my ideas effectively. Punctuation was usually a big idea. Learning how to use a thesaurus was usually a big idea. Some of the things that I would struggle with, putting together a good paragraph, but I don't remember a lot of the other. But if you want your student to have more, Jensen's grammar, you could do that over 2 years. You could spread that out over a 2 or 3 year period as you did Writing Strands. You could do the punctuation and the grammar alongside with the writing curriculum to make sure that they have a solid foundation in that too. Jensen's has been around for, I think, over 30 years, educating homeschool families. It's one of the top picks out there for writing and curriculum. So I have no problem recommending Jensen's to a family who wants a pretty solid writing grammar course as well. Okay, so I think I answered a lot of the questions. I'll go back through today and answer any questions that I might not have gotten to. Guys, appreciate your time and appreciate the opportunity to answer questions and serve this community. Again, for those of you who are dying to have it, More Than Words is in stock, and so is Language Lessons for a Living Education. We are working hard to get them shipped out. So don't panic if you don't get a tracking number today or tomorrow. Just know that the team is bringing, I saw Tim, who is the owner of the company. Tim, he is the CEO, and his sister Lydia, who is the CFO, Chief Financial Officer. We're in the warehouse today packing boxes to make sure that we can get this back order out to parents as fast as possible. So know that we are doing everything we can to get them out. If you didn't take advantage of the flash sale or you didn't know about it, that's the last flash sale of the summer. It's a book order with one book is as hard to ship as a book order with 10 books. And so our warehouse staff they're pretty stretched right now. Praise the Lord. It's the blessing because we've really taken off in sales and serving families. So be sure to place your orders early. If you need something and you know what you need, be sure to get your orders in so you can get them on time, because I have a feeling come August, it's going to be just all hands on deck to get orders out. And I want to make sure everybody has their curriculum in time. So guys, God bless you. Thursday, I'm talking about kind of an applied learning approach versus the traditional knowledge approach that so many of us are used to. Graduating with a head full of knowledge rather than graduating with the skill to use the knowledge that we have access to. It almost sounds profound. I will see you on Thursday. God bless you all, and we'll talk to you later.